Hey, what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to another episode on how to build a WordPress plugin from scratch. In this tutorial, we're gonna take a look on how to build a custom taxonomy manager. And basically all the things that we have to do are identical to all the things that we did for the custom post type manager. Of course, we're gonna change some core functionalities to activate the taxonomy that is different from activating or registering a custom post type, but pretty much everything else is identical. So if you want, you can skip this tutorial or the next one and try to do it by yourself because the code is pretty much identical. The thing that I'm gonna do in these tutorials, the next couple of episodes, I'm gonna speed up a lot of sections, a lot of repeated stuff because are identical to the custom post type manager. But let's get started. Let's activate the taxonomy manager, save the changes, and now because of the way we build our awesome plugin, we have the taxonomy manager section. If we access it, of course, it's empty. The things that I want to do, I want to have an exact same settings of the custom post type manager with the list of custom post type, the form to add one, and an export section. So let's do it. Let's access our code editor, let's access the cpt.php, and let's copy everything, and let's access the taxonomy.php that is inside the templates folder, and let's paste everything here. I'm gonna delete a bunch of stuff that for now I'm not gonna use. For example, the for each loop that is printing my custom post types, I don't want that. And here I can update this text by saying export your taxonomies. Then up here, for now, let's comment these out because I don't have a form ready for the second tab, so I'm not gonna call or trigger these unique settings field because I haven't set those up. And here, instead of edit post, I'm gonna pass the edit taxonomy because I'm gonna use that later. And also here, I guess I'm gonna comment out this entire PHP code. I don't wanna delete it because basically, I'm gonna use the same exact structure, but I'm not gonna use it for now. I'm gonna wait until I set up all the proper fields. And here, manage your custom taxonomies. And here, once again, edit taxonomy, set to active, export, it's fine, edit post. Let's switch all these edit post to edit underscore taxonomy active. And then here, your custom post type is your taxonomies. And here is taxonomy. And of course, let's taxonomy, let's say taxonomy manager. Yeah, taxonomy manager, settings error, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back in the front end, refresh. Perfect, we have the same situation. Of course, the tab works because it's based on regular JavaScript. It's not connected to PHP and everything works as expected. Perfect, now I have to create all those fields that I commented out because I don't have, but for the custom taxonomy. So in our custom taxonomy manager, if we access our code editor in the base, let's open the custom taxonomy controller. And here what we have, basically we're just setting the subpage of the custom taxonomy controller and we're setting up a bunch of things for that page. We don't have anything else. The thing that we have to do is basically exactly what we have here for the custom post type controller by having custom callbacks, activating the settings, activating sections fields, and storing the custom taxonomies and not the custom post type. So let's do exactly that. First, in the API callbacks, let's generate a new file called taxonomy callbacks.php. And here we can basically copy paste what we have in the CPT callbacks and put it in the taxonomy callbacks, but let's not write anything for now. This is just a completely empty callbacks controller, but at least we have it. And let's remember to rename that controller the same exact name that we use for the name file. Perfect. In the custom taxonomy controller.php, we can use these newly generated files. So inc/API/callbacks/taxonomy callbacks. Awesome. Here, let's fill up and let's write all the public variables that we're gonna use throughout our controller in the same way that we did for our custom post type controller. So first we have the public settings variable that it's currently carrying our settings API instance, but we didn't declare it here. So that's a bit of a mistake. Luckily, I cut it up. We got the callbacks that it's pointing to the admin callbacks to generate those pages. That's perfect. Then right after the subpages array, let's declare another array public that in our case is gonna be the full list of taxonomies that we're gonna customly generate. Perfect. And then right after the regular callbacks for the admin section, let's create another variable that we're gonna use for the taxonomy callback. And because I don't wanna rewrite taxonomy every time I have a variable called taxonomy, I'm gonna use the tax underscore callbacks just for easy of use, but you can name these variables however you want, it's totally fine. And of course here, right after the callbacks, we can generate a new instance of this taxonomy callback that we just created. So taxonomy callbacks is gonna be equal to a new instance of the taxonomy callbacks class. Perfect. Just to be sure, just to check, let's go back in our admin and let's refresh. And we have a PHP error. Luckily, I checked. We have just a simple typo here in the API. It's just API, not APPI. Sorry. Let's refresh. Okay, we fixed all our PHP errors. That was a stupid typo. There's no problem. Let's continue. So right after setting the subpages, now it's time to set the settings of that specific section. So let's access here this to reference this instance. Let's tap a method called set settings that if you're following along with the custom post type controller, is basically identical what we have in the custom post type controller. So here let's declare a publicly accessible method called exactly set settings. And this method doesn't expect any parameter to be passed. In the set settings, let's create an argument that it's a multidimensional array like our custom settings API interface expects. And inside here, another array. Let's open it. And here we can declare all the three options that the settings API expects. So the first one, set the single quote, is the option group. And the option group has to have a unique name that in my case is going to be alicad underscore plugin underscore tax underscore settings and at tax, not tx settings, comma. The second is the option underscore name, and the option name is gonna contain the unique name alicad underscore plugin underscore tax. That stands for taxonomies, it's not taxes, even if it's tax season right now. And then we can manage the callbacks or simple callback for this option group that is gonna reference the instance that we generated, these tax underscore callbacks. And in the tax callbacks, we wanna tap a function called tax sanitize. And the tax sanitize basically is going to be identical to what we have in the custom post type sanitize, the CPT sanitize. So let's go in the taxonomy callbacks and we can copy paste the CPT sanitize method from our CPT callbacks and paste it right here. So this is the CPT sanitize method that we defined a bunch of episodes ago. Now let's simply replace every time we use the CPT with tax, that it's our new prefix that we're using here, taxonomy, perfect. Post remove, we want to maintain these. Post type, we're not going to use post type anymore. So let's select all every time we declare a post type, and we can declare a taxonomy. And if this confuses you a little bit, it shouldn't, because this code, we're not changing anything other than the unique keys name that we're using to store this code inside our database. So everything should make sense for you. If it doesn't, go back to follow the section where I define all this stuff in the custom post type controller manager callbacks, because we're using exactly the same code. So let's continue. Let's go back in the custom taxonomy controller. And after declaring this multidimensional array with args variable, let's trigger the settings API that we're storing here inside our settings variable. And let's method chain the set settings that we're having in our custom API controller. And let's pass the arguments array. Perfect. Of course, every time you generate a method like this, even if we're repeating the same exact code, let's go back in the front end, let's refresh just to check if we have an error. And in fact, we have an error on line 64. This is expecting a semicolon. Instead, I did something wrong. On line 64, yes, there should be a comma or nothing. I put a semicolon, sorry about that. It's always good to refresh the page, even if it's not the best approach and it's kind of like annoying. Every time you build a small method or a variable or using something, extending something, just refresh your page and see if you broke something. So that's good. Let's continue. Let's go back in our register method right after the set settings. Now we need to set the sections that we need to generate. So also in this case, let's reference this instance and set the sections. And all the way to the bottom, let's declare a publicly accessible method called setSections. And the setSections is gonna have once again our beloved args, that it's a multidimensional array. And inside this multidimensional array, we're gonna declare 4 parameters. The first parameter is the ID of this section that we want to generate, and this section is going to be called alecad underscore tax underscore index. Then the title of this section that we're going to print dynamically is going to be custom taxonomy. It's a super weird word for me. Like, I never get used to write taxonomy, but custom taxonomy manager. The third attribute is the callback of this method, and the callback of this method, once again, we need to tap the taxonomy callback, so we can copy that and paste it here. But instead, in this case, we're gonna tap the tax section manager. And because we are separating all these callbacks inside separated files, inside separated callbacks manager, we can also avoid, if you want, the prefix tax. You can call these like a regular section manager, or just like printing the section, stuff like that. I keep it like this because it makes more sense for me, but it's not a requirement to have a unique name for these methods inside classes, because we are using separated classes that are not interfering with each other. So just FYI. And then the fourth and last parameter is the page where we want to print this thing. And in the custom post type controller, we were printing it in the alecad CPT page. But in our case, this is not the CPT page anymore, it's the taxonomy page. And to check which unique ID or unique name of the page we declare, let's scroll back up in the menu slug where we're declaring this very own subpage. And the subpage is alecad taxonomy. So let's copy these, let's paste it here. Perfect. Let's put a semicolon at the end of the arguments multidimensional array. Before continuing, let's declare this tax section manager in our taxonomy callbacks. And because this is just a method that prints pretty much only the title name of the section, we don't need to pass any parameter. We don't need to receive any parameter. We can put it above everything else, has a first method accessible by these callbacks controller. So let's echo a description like create as many custom taxonomies as you want. Something like that, something similar, something different, whatever. Perfect. Let's go back in our controller and let's continue right after declaring these arguments. Let's trigger once again the settings API by saying, hey, this instance of the settings API, I want a method chain the set sections, that is the method that we just created, and pass these arguments parameter. Perfect. Let's continue by declaring the fields now. That it's a whole nother story, because now we have something unique that only the taxonomies have and not the custom post type. So let's call these instance and a new method called setFields. Perfect. We don't need to pass any parameter here. Let's declare another publicly accessible method called setFields. Lovely. And in the set fields here, we can start building once again our massive multidimensional array to pass all the fields that we want to generate. And of course, let's declare these empty array here. And let's generate a couple of necessary fields in order to have these up and running and just to test it a little bit. I don't want to generate all the fields for the taxonomies, like I didn't want to generate all the fields for the custom post type, but you can easily extend it and you can easily add all the things that you need. But for now, let's create the first field that it's ID with the attribute ID. And the first attribute is going to be the actual taxonomy name, the one that I'm going to use as a key to store the multidimensional array in my database. Then I'm going to put a title, then it's going to be equal to custom taxonomy ID, something like that. Then I need to create and reference the callback, that also in this case we can copy these taxonomy callbacks, but then we can reference to the regular text field, because in this case, the taxonomy ID, I want to give the user the ability to write it as a regular text field. And also in this case, in the taxonomy callback, we can simply paste the text field method that we inherited from the CPT callbacks. Let's paste it right here, but also in this case, let's change a little bit of things because we don't have the edit post right now. As we changed in our taxonomy.php template, we are passing the edit taxonomy, not the edit post. So let's replace this edit post with the edit taxonomy. So if we're expecting that, let's print this stuff. And let's leave everything else like this for now. This should work. I'm not 100% sure, but this should work absolutely. So let's save it. Let's continue by adding other attribute to our field. We need to declare the page attribute where we want this field to be printed. And the page is identical to the slug that we defined before. Alicat taxonomy. Then we need to set the section where we want this to be printed or where this belong to. And the section is alicat underscore tax underscore index that we declared before. And here we have to pass a bunch of arguments that we need in order to customize our text field, and we pass the arguments inside an array. And I'm gonna copy this argument from the CPT manager, the custom post type manager, because they're identical. I need to change just a bunch of stuff. The option name is alicat plugin tax, where I'm gonna store this option in the database. The label for is not post type, but it's taxonomy. And then the array is taxonomy. And here is gonna be example genre, something like that. Awesome, we generated our first field. Now let's generate another field. Then it's gonna be identical to the custom post type because we need to have a singular name for our taxonomy. So let's copy the array field called singular name from the custom post type. But of course, let's replace all these CPT stuff with our tax stuff. So let's just simply tap this CPT with tax, replace it. Perfect. Singular name is also, instead of post type, we need the array to be taxonomy. And here, instead of product, we are saying example genre. So let's say genre. This is our genre. Singular name, tax. Instead of CPT callback, we need to tap the tax callback, the text field. We already have that type of method. Awesome. The other thing that I want to specify is a bunch of checkboxes. The first checkbox is to set the taxonomy to be hierarchical or not. So let's also, in this case, copy an entire field from the custom post type field. Let's paste it here. And here I just copy the public option from the custom post type manager. But instead of public, I want to replace it with hierarchical. And because I don't know how to write hierarchical, probably I just paste it from Google, just hierarchical. It's a really complicated word for me. So let's paste it also here, but hierarchical. Okay, this replace the CPT callbacks to tax callbacks. Let's replace these CPT also in this case with these tax index and alicat plugin tax. Hierarchical instead of post type, we are referencing the taxonomy, and we don't have the checkbox field. So let's copy this and let's paste it also in this case from the CPT callbacks to the taxonomy callbacks all the way at the bottom. Public function, checkbox fields, perfect, label, option name. Instead of edit post, also in this case, we need to change it to edit taxonomy. So let's replace this. Boom, edit taxonomy. We're not referencing the post type. It's just so generic that we can maintain it like that. That's perfect. Awesome. Let's leave it like that for now. These are like 3 simple options that are the minimum options that are necessary in order to have a custom taxonomy activated. So right after we close the multidimensional array, the args, right after we write the semicolon, we can activate these fields by referencing once again the instance of our settings API and then method chaining the set fields and passing these arguments multidimensional array. Perfect. Let's save it. Let's go back in our administration area. Let's refresh. We have another error because I don't know how to write PHP on line 11 of the taxonomy callbacks. Let's go back here on PHP. 11. Okay, damn semicolon. I forgot a semicolon. Sorry about that. Okay. Now we have everything, it's back. Let's uncomment all the things that we commented out for the taxonomy part, because now we have those settings field. So let's go back into taxonomy PHP and let's start from the easiest part. So the form, if we uncomment this section and we say instead of CPT, let's replace the CPT with the tax and we save it. Let's go back in our front end, refresh. If we go to add taxonomy, oh, the form is empty, sorry. So it's not, I guess it's not allocat tax, but is, yes, it's allocat taxonomy because I generated that page. The menu slug is allocat taxonomy, so I shouldn't use allocat tax, but allocat taxonomy. So here, label 4, taxonomy. Yeah, here I made a mistake. I used the allocat tax, but this is allocat taxonomy, not allocat tax. Sorry about that. That was a stupid mistake. Okay, perfect. That should be enough, right? Yes. Save it. Let's go back in our template, and instead of do settings allocat tax, let's allocat taxonomy settings. Let's refresh, add taxonomy. Perfect. Now we have the custom taxonomy manager, the ID, the singular name, and the hierarchical name. Okay, this is fantastic. Before trying to save something, let's remember that we had this issue at the beginning with the custom post type manager. If we try to save something, it doesn't save it because we don't have that option currently available in our database. So what we have to do, we have to access the activate method in our base, and here we're doing something. We are storing an empty array for the allocat plugin CPT in the case that specific WP option doesn't exist. We have to do exactly the same for the allocat plugin tax, because otherwise it won't work. So let's replace this with tax. Let's save it. Fantastic. And let's go back in our administration area, in the dashboard, actually in the plugin section. Let's deactivate the plugin. Let's reactivate it again. Generated our allocat plugin tax section, and we can double check in our database in the WP options table. Let's refresh. Right at the bottom, we have our allocat plugin tax that it's completely empty. We have an empty array in it, but at least we have this option now. So if we go back in our allocat taxonomy manager and we add a taxonomy, for example, genre, with the name genre, hierarchical, save changes, the settings have been saved. If we go back in our database and we refresh, there you go. Now we have a multidimensional array stored in our database with the main key is the genre, which is the unique taxonomy name that we specified, and then the taxonomy type, that is genre, the singular name, that is genre again, but uppercase or capitalized, and then the hierarchical, that it's a boolean, that it's set to 1. So that's perfect. So it's pretty much it for this lesson. It was super quick just to set up a bunch of things. Basically, we are resetting everything that we did for the custom post type manager. And if you think that I'm reusing the code a little bit too much, like I'm copy pasting a lot from the custom post type callbacks to the taxonomy callbacks and from the custom post type manager to the taxonomy manager, well, yes, I am, but the majority of these things are slightly different. So if you want, you can definitely make it more modular. For example, like the callbacks can be all unified with the type of sanitization or the text field or the checkbox field into one single type of callbacks, and then dynamically passing a bunch of variables to change the behavior based if you're dealing with taxonomies or custom post type. But for easier use, this is not a massive amount of duplicated code, and I'm not going to reuse this thing again for other sections. So I'm pretty okay with this, and I'm going to customize them a little bit. So it's good to have them separated into different callbacks manager. So it's pretty much it for today's lesson. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And if you want, you can check the support me page of my website, where you can find all different ways and methods to support me, support my channel, and help me to do better videos and better tutorials for you. Thank you again, guys, and until the next lesson, as usual, happy coding!